All right, guys, you have asked for it and we have delivered here on ABT Lockdown Live. We have got the holder of multiple ABT records and AFC champion, Chris Slick Wright. Righty, welcome to ABT Lockdown Live, mate. And we know you're sequestered down there on the far south coast of New South Wales, surrounded by charcoal after the bushfires, but you have made the technology work, mate. Well done.
Thanks, Steve. I won't say it was easy, but we've got the job and it's working, so let's roll.
That's good, mate. Now, the first question I've got, and I haven't prompted you for this one. I haven't told you I'm going to ask it. But the nickname Slick, mate, I've got a fair idea on how that happened. Take us through how Slick happened. And if you don't tell the story, I'm going
to. Yeah, well, that was on the Shellhaven River. The second year, I think it was, the second tournament I ever did. We first up, it started with a game of pool with your brother. And I forgot who the other partner was, but we beat them pants down.
Yep.
So the boys had to do the run around the table, and I won't tell you what happened because one of them fell over and another one ended on top of them. And then we went into the comp, and we had the comp, and luckily I come away with a win in that one, which was good. And at the very end of the day, Kim Bain raced over and wound my boat up on the trailer for me, and that was just too much for all the guys to handle. And Slick come along. I wasn't excited about it, to tell you the truth, but after talking to Bushy and told me how nicknames could be a lot worse, I just copped it and it's stuck ever since.
I think it was Trent Butler, wasn't it? He was going, "How slick are you, mate? Kim Bain won't even wind her own boat on the trailer."
That's exactly right. And she did wind the boat on. I wasn't in it. I was standing nearby, but she did it, and I was very grateful for it.
There you go, mate. So that is how Slick turned. And it just happened to be that, let's clarify this one. Is a Slick rig, is that named after you?
I had nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Did they steal the nickname?
No. It's still the nickname. Yeah, maybe they picked up on that afterwards. I'm not sure with Shimano. And I think that was all Terry Dunphy's creation, the old Slick rigs.
The old Slickies, mate. They've caught thousands and thousands of barra and dewies and everything all over the joint. They're a great lure. Now, let's talk about some of your, well, firstly, before we talk about your records, and you've got plenty, tell us about how you're dealing with the lockdown at COVID. You're an abalone diver, that's your day job, but you don't do that all year. And you've had a bit of disruption this year. Tell us where you've landed after COVID. What's happened?
This year's been pretty horrible, actually. It's in work-wise. We started with the bushfires in Malakuta.
Yep.
And they tore through the town and burnt the factory down that we process all the abalone. A lot of locals lost their houses and their jobs. And still to this day, the temporary facility's not finished. And so we haven't gone to work mainly because of the bushfires. But now the temporary facility, is ready to go. COVID's come along, and obviously no one's eating outdoors in China. And so really we've got no orders at this stage. So things aren't that flash, but on the other hand, I've had a great time with my children for the last month or two, and we're having a ball together, and I'm making the most of that before everything does start up again. So
let's go. We had a bit of a chat yesterday about what your specialties are. It's not maths and English, is it?
No, I'm definitely not a teacher. Hats off to being a school teacher. There's been a lot of physical education with my teaching, boogie boarding, surfing, diving, spearfishing, you name it, we've done it, and we're having a ball doing it.
Well, that's good, mate. They're getting a good rounded life experience down on the south coast of New South Wales. Now, let's talk about... We're
very lucky where we're positioned down here for it, and I've got national parks straight behind me, so we don't have to travel anywhere to do all this, so it's been good.
That's awesome, mate. Yeah, I think I said the other day, the best part of your house and your lifestyle is everything, and the worst part is bushfires. That's the only thing that can throw a spanner in your works, isn't it? And you had some good ones.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about the records, and we were talking about it. We were in Tassie this year. We go to Tassie every 2 years now with ABT, and when we were down there this year, they were all talking about the old records. And, of course, the one that everyone wants but no one can get is your 5 bream limit for 7.055 kilos in the Derwent. Take us through that day, because it happened about 12 years ago, I think now, and no one's really come close to it ever since. So take us through that day, mate.
Yeah, that day was sort of just like any other day in a comp. You meet your non-boater and you look forward to a day's fishing. And because it's Tasmania, you're even more looking forward to a day's fishing because you know what might be possible. And I fished along Bedlam Walls with 1 kilo and 100 mil bloodworm wriggler on a 2 gram number 4 head. And we just drifted along the wall and we're getting the odd fish. And then we hit this little stretch and it was on. It was just fish after fish of some really nice sized fish. And I had a nice bag. And then we came back and I just saw a pole in the middle of the river. And, a pole means, there's some rough ground, foul ground around it. And we stopped there and had a couple of casts, and I was using an SX40 and got 2 absolute massive fish right off the pole on the shallow reef. And we'd been fishing elsewhere in Tasmania that trip, and I thought, it's not a bad bag of fish. I didn't think it was over the top sort of thing. And then we weighed it in, and I was like, whoa, that's a good start to a comp.
Now that's it's interesting because in that bag was undeniably the largest bream of the comp, but you were so excited about the bag you forgot to weigh it in, didn't you?
Oh, I weighed those 5 fish in, saw over 7 kilos come up and just had this grin from ear to ear, grabbed those 5 fish, strutted over to the tank, deployed them into the tank and didn't think anything of it. And then someone grabbed me and they said, hey, you've probably got big bream there. Look at the size of that one. But rules being rules, and that's fair enough. It was too late to pull him out of the tank. It's pretty obvious which one it was, but that was fine. And Scotty Towner ended up weighing in Big Bream for that weekend. And being the absolute gentleman that Scott has always been and still is, grabbed the check from Simon, presented him the check, walked straight over to me and gave it to me, put it in my hand and announced, we all know who caught the Big Bream for this weekend. So, proper gentleman, Scott is. Yeah.
It's interesting, is it? Because that technique you just explained then, catching your bag off Bedlam Walls on the squidgy, that colour, bloodworm colour, on a squidgy, was exactly how it was won again this year in 2020, mate. And that was by Steve Pryke, who I reckon was probably in primary school still when you set that record. Yeah. So the generations are coming through, mate, and nothing much changes when it comes to what the fish want to eat.
No, I think the bream will always be eating bloodworms, so you'll be right there. Yeah.
Yep. Now, the other record that you've got, and this is I don't know how it can be, but it's even more impressive than the 5 fish limit, is the biggest ever bream weighed at an ABT event. It was a Mega Bucks event at Foster in the early 2000s. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly the year it was. Might have been 2003 or 2004 or something like that. Might even be 2002. But it was a 1.99 kilo yellowfin bream. And I remember, because I was weighmaster when that happened, that thing was an absolute tank of a fish, wasn't it? Take us through that capture, because that was not scringy line on Bedlam Walls, mate. That was a bit more hand-to-hand.
No, that was, I think we were back then, we were using Miller Rods Brawlers and 8-pound braid and 14 and 16-pound leader. And we were fishing oyster racks all around Foster and just getting destroyed. It was absolutely amazing fishing. And to make that capture even better, I was with a good mate, Bushy, and we were doing the Mega Bucks together. And we were actually lost. And we'd gone around some islands. We were lost. We didn't know exactly where we were. But there was all these busted up oyster racks covered in shags and birds. And so let's just go over there. And we pulled up, and all you could see over these racks was tails in the air, bream, just tailing and feeding. And I looked at one, and he just looked so much bigger than the rest. And I threw back then it was the 65 mil bloodworm wriggler again.
Yes.
Just on a jig head. I threw it just past it, wound, watched this bream turn, come over, open its mouth, and just eat it. And he sizzled me under 3 racks. I was down on the side of Bushy's boat, just winding, got it to the net. Bushy missed it with the net. It went back under the racks. I was panicking, screaming at him. We got it in. We just both just stood there virtually hugging each other, staring at this fish. And then he just pats me on the back, throws it in the well and goes, now get another one.
That's it.
And that was that, you know. And all day I just kept lifting the lid of that well, looking in there. And it was having trouble turning around in the live well, that fish. It was huge.
Yeah. No, it was a dead set giant in the day, mate, and it turned a lot of heads. Back in that day at Foster, mate, we had crowds at the weigh-in. There was standing room only on the thing, and when you held that fish up, there was a reaction.
That year there was so many big fish caught. It was just, I remember just Josh Batterson getting 1.7 kilo fishes, and there was so many crew getting big fish out of the racks. It was just, Bushy and I just wanted to move to Foster. It was just the mecca of bream fishing and the style of fishing that we love, in structure, wrenching them out. And it was pretty funny that day. We were coming back. We had 10 good fish. I think it was 10 back in those days.
Yep.
And we stopped under the bridge, and I said to Bushy, what are you doing? We've got a good bag. And he pulls out this packet of Berkeley drop shot minnows. And back then they had all the glitter and that on them. And he puts his hand in and gets all the glitter, and he puts it all over his face and rubs it all over my face. I'm like, what are you doing? You know? And he goes, I don't want them knowing what we're using until the comp's over. And we weighed those fish in, and we had glitter all over our faces, and you could hear people going, they're using drop shot minnows. They're using drop shot minnows, you know? Like, he was just the master of anything, you know? Yeah.
He was the original secret squirrel, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. He had a pretty good saying, you know? You've got the saying, he who shares wins. Oh, Bushy had this saying, he who shuts up wins a lot more.
That's it.
Yeah. So,
they
were great times.
Yeah, and Bushy, of course, had the 10-fish record for quite a few years. At Gippsland Lakes, out of his little alley craft, he had over 10 kilos for 10 fish, which stood, I think, until maybe Captain Kev or someone did it. So, mate, you South Coast guys have really had a bit of a stranglehold on the bream fishing for a while.
Yeah, like I've been really privileged to learn so much from Bushy and from Captain Kev. I mean, you couldn't get too big of legends in the sport, in my eyes, and they're constantly refining and changing things. And the stuff I learned from them that I took to comps and won, it was all they're doing half the time. It really was.
Awesome, mate. Now, of course, from your ABT fame, we picked you out and we got you in the very original series of the Australian Fishing Championships, or AFC. And you did a couple of years in AFC before you thought, I've done that, won enough trophies now, I'm going to go and do something else, mate. Take us through your favourite moment in AFC. And if you've got a couple's fine, but I want to talk about a couple of your favourite moments from a fishing point of view in AFC, because a lot of guys have commented about how they love watching the old school guys like yourself get it done. None of these nana drags or anything, mate. It's all old school, tighten that sucker up.
Look, there was so many great moments, you know, travelling around with a great mob of guys and just hanging out. I'll always remember. But fishing moments, that very first year in the Yarra River, we weren't allowed to pre-fish. We were doing a TV show, and it come down to Tim Morgan or myself. Whoever wins the first AFC. Go at generally 7:30 by the time you've done all the filming, and off you go. And I think I'd fished there once before, and I didn't know anything about it. And did Tim, and Tim stayed in the harbour area where you could see fish tailing, but were probably harder to catch. I just went to a bridge, just picked one bridge with one pylon. It had flow and threw out and got clunked virtually second cast. I thought, I think I'll just stay here. And the rest's history with that one. It was a pretty memorable day, catching a hell of a lot of bream.
Well, I think it was nearly 30 fish off the one spot when the rest of the field could hardly get a bite.
Yeah, it was, I don't know what I was doing different, or if they were just happened to be schooled there. I got lucky and made it work, I suppose, you know. So that was good, and definitely the session in the Hawkesbury, the yellowfin bream in under racks. You're up this creek all by yourself, catching these big yellowfin bream, dragging them out, getting busted off, and just having to put up with the odd bit of noise from the train going past. That was a special day too. And, you know, teamed up with Harry Watson that year, and we took it out, and Harry's become a close friend ever since, you know. So that was really memorable as well.
Yeah, look, I remember watching that episode, and every single fish you catch hits the net, and you go, "That's a kicker." And then the second fish hits the net, that's a kicker, and the third one hits the net, and you go, "Oh, that's a real kicker." And you know, it was one of those things where you didn't just win the event; you pants the rest of the field by a long way, mate. And that's the danger of you as a fisherman is you don't go. I'm not going to go to light line and just catch a bag. I'm going to go nasty structure fishing with heavy line, and either they're going to win or I'm going to win. But there's going to be a fight.
Yeah. I don't mind the light screening line out in the open sand flats, but look, if I was going down to Meetung tomorrow for a bream comp, I'd be using 12-pound leader under those jetties, and if they go clunk, their head's going to get turned 180 real quick. Yeah.
Now let's talk about that. I didn't have that on the list here, but another one of your claims to fame, many claims to fame, is you won yourself the Yellow Submarine Triton. But back in, it must have been, what, 2000 and mid-2000s when we had the Gippsland Lakes Grand Final based out of the Nicholson River. And I seem to remember the tournament angler guide had pictures of you fishing at Paynesville there. And mate, take us through that last day at Paynesville, because the fish you caught in that grand final were amazing as well.
Yeah, they were all big fish. I'd done a pre-fish over there and just looked around and could see fish. So I thought, I didn't even fish. I just thought, I'll go back there. It's another anything to go right, you know. And the first day I got teamed up with Darren Sperling, who was a good friend from the South Coast. He was the non-boater, so that instantly makes you feel pretty comfortable, you know, someone really well already. And we fished all down Newlands Arms, and that day they were all in between the jetties on the sand flats, and we were catching them, and we had our limit really quick, and I just left, and he couldn't really realise why I left. I said, look, this has got to last another 2 days, and we were in and out of there by 9 o'clock, I think, and I got one kicker fish at the front of the Mitchell on the way back and called it a day. And then day two, I forgot who I was paired with, but things changed. The fish were all under the structure, and yeah, I was fishing resin heads. I made my own resin heads onto hooks out of surfboard resin and put bloodworm wrigglers on them so they wouldn't sink as much, and you just rip them around high in the water column, and was catching them that way. And it was really exciting. It was good visual fishing right in close, like half a cast, and watching them come out and eat it. So yeah, that was good. But day three, the dolphins were all there, eating all the bream under the jetties, and panic stations sort of hit in. And it wasn't until I think 11 o'clock I had my first fish, and I got the rest that day right down the back of Newlands Arm on a flat where I hadn't even been the previous 2 days. And so in a way, I got a bit lucky that day too, in the end, you know. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate, it's not like you're a bit of a natural fisherman, and you put a fish in the water in front of you, you inevitably find a way to catch it, mate. Really appreciate you having on board tonight, mate, and ABT Lockdown Live, mate. And I think that signifying how much AFC and ABT meant to you, you sent me some photos during the week that we're going to put up on the screen now. It's of, you know, your framed AFC jersey from season 2 that everyone had signed, and your grand final win, and your times with mates. I think your secret to success is you enjoy getting together with your mates so much and just catching fish that all of the success is just a bit of a bonus. Like, you don't think about the when you're in and out of the water, don't you? You're just going fishing.
No, exactly. I never used to think about it at all. It was just a trip away. Like, we had a good core group of guys that I just so look forward to seeing. And we'd all hang out. Some nights we'd get on it. Some nights we'd just go to bed early. But we'd all have a really good, honest friend relationship. And those guys are still friends today. We camp together now and things like that. We go fishing, and it's created a great bond and a great friendships. And also the sponsors I've got, and still to this day, they're friends. They're close friends. You ring them up, you chat, and they come to your birthday parties and things like that. Like, it's not all about winning. You know, some of the best memories I've got of is if I've done well. For instance, in Tasmania, we went down there. I won St Helens, and Joffa, who I went with, won his first ever comp, and we're driving out of St Helens in my car, just looking at each other. I remember it. It was just was pure gold. You know, like, and I was more happy for him than winning for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's good times, mate, and we really appreciate you spending the time tonight, wrangling that technology down into a ball and joining us tonight on Lockdown Live, mate. So look after yourself and have a good night.
Thanks, mate.